Welcome back to another episode of College Cash Corner, the podcast where we dive into all things related to managing your finance during your college years. Today, we have in the room MCC's Coordinator of Financial Literacy, Tara Baker, and our special guest, David Martinez, who works in the MCC Financial Aid Department, and me, a student like our listeners and peer mentor of financial literacy. Today, we have a very special episode lined up for you. We will be exploring the often confused concept of financial aid and financial literacy. Before we get started, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is David Martinez. I currently work in the financial aid department here at Mesa Community College at the Southern Dobson campus. I've been with the department for about 7 years now. I started initially as a federal work study, worked my ranks. Now I am a board approved student service specialist under the direction of Pat Pippin. I started back in 2015 and I still continued being in the department. I partured for about a year and then came back. But definitely, thank you for having me today here.
Thanks, David. And I'm Tara Baker, the Financial Literacy Coordinator at MCC. I've been with MCC for almost a year now. And before that, for 20 years, I was in the public schools K-12 system, mainly teaching English. But part of my job, too, with teaching English was I was also tasked with doing some financial literacy work with the students. So that's what brought me to MCC when I saw that I could continue talking about something that I'm very passionate about, and at the community college level with adults. I'm happy to have you here, David. We're very excited.
Nice, that's fantastic. Let's jump right in. First of all, David, could you give us explanation or brief overview of what is financial aid?
Yes, financial aid is aid that's provided to students that encompasses both state, local, and federal. So if we're speaking federal aid, we're talking about the most common application is the FAFSA that encompasses both grants, federal work study, and student loans. Other type of aids that can come from filling out a FAFSA can be state, local aid, as well as other private donors as well, scholarships.
So, Tara, what's exactly financial literacy?
So financial literacy is knowing how to manage money, and oftentimes financial literacy is personal finance. It's in regards to personal finance, and it's understanding how budgeting, saving, investing, borrowing, managing credit, those types of things affect your finances and also affect your financial decisions.
That's a great summary. David, what are the top 5 things people should know about financial aid?
Things that students should know about financial aid is that they should definitely know deadlines. Know deadlines to applications, know the deadlines to the scholarships, and definitely following up. That's the important part after applying, following up to seeing the status of the application, if there's any documentation to be submitted. More importantly too is knowing the amounts. That's important to know as well. As colleges receive numerous of scholarships and stuff like that, so it also helps to know the amounts. And then more importantly, doing due diligence of keeping on top of tasks. Things come up along the way, and especially with financial aid, students can sometimes be lost of hope and they don't see the amounts that they should be receiving, or they're told one thing that they're not getting, but then they're not doing the due diligence and following up, and then now they're discouraged.
So with that, like tracking their applications and what they've applied for and seeing if they're getting awarded, where is the best place that students can look to keep on track with that?
Yeah, so if the scholarship itself has a portal that they can follow up where it tells them where the submission, the progress and track of it, that would be a great resource. In the event that is not applicable, at that point, following up with the schools scholarship coordinators or their financial aid office. That would be the best bet, to ensure that everything, is documented also, but then they know that, hey, the scholarship is here and it's just a question of being processed, or no, they have not received a notice. More importantly with that is also emails. Every communication now is kind of sent through school emails and stuff like that, or even personal emails, to ensure like there is some type of documentation, but also notice of where in the process are they with their scholarships.
All right. And I know a lot of students also talk about, or I'm sorry, not the students, but a lot of people at college, the FAFSA is always being talked about. If students think that they're not going to receive much financial aid or any kind of financial aid unless it's loans, and they're not interested in loans, should they still fill out the FAFSA?
Yes, so the FAFSA can do a dual purpose, like as you mentioned. You can qualify for federal aid, whether that's loans, grants, and obviously federal work study. But more importantly too is, if they don't qualify for any of those above, that can be also a precursor to other scholarships. Some scholarships do determine some need-based aid, as well as, priority. So how long the student has been attending and what's their need in that capacity. It opens the floodgates for other scholarships.
Okay.
And that can determine whether that's on campus or other outside external donors and stuff like that. And some of them don't require the FAFSA, but some of them do, just to see what kind of need they need, and maybe also increase the award amounts.
Okay. And that's really helpful to know, because there are a lot of students who ask, do you have to fill out the FAFSA for particular scholarships? Because we do have students who can't fill out the FAFSA, right? So, but there are students who ask, well, can I apply for this scholarship without filling out a FAFSA? And if the answer is no, they're going to need FAFSA information. A lot of students also go, oh, well, I don't want to fill out the FAFSA. Like, I don't want to take the time to do it, but it may be worth their time, especially if it could open a lot of doors for them.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
In your opinion, how do you think these two concepts of financial aid and financial literacy intersect?
In financial aid, if I'm understanding it correctly, and David, if I butcher this, stop me in my tracks. If a student's receiving an award, is receiving financial aid of any amount, that's an amount of money that they're going to have to manage. Even if it goes directly into their student account and covers tuition right away, the student still needs to understand how that will affect the rest of their finances, right? If they were expecting to pay $1,200 for their tuition and now received $1,000 scholarship, and that's getting applied to their tuition, well, that's $1,000 that they currently have that they're not going to need. So now they have this extra $1,000, and then they have to decide what they're going to do with that $1,000. David, what do you think?
Yeah, you actually hit it really good. The issue, I think, with that is most students think they're getting money, and as you mentioned, they don't plan for what they're gonna do after, a refund. And so more than likely, students see an extra money. Now there is an opportunity for them to utilize it to the best of their abilities, but more often than not, they do have to use it for, day-to-day expenses, living, transportation and stuff like that. Stuff that necessarily don't get covered in their tuition. And one side, that's an opportunity for them to save potentially, utilize it appropriately. But then there's also times where they can use it for themselves. There's as this new school year rolls around, there's opportunities for school shopping and stuff like that, and almost to say a little splurge for themselves. So, that I think that's also appropriate too. Just to, have their belongings and stuff like that as well. But more importantly, I think with that is students can put more focus on saving it, due to circumstances. Year to year things change and stuff like that. And if you have a nice little refund, maybe that can something be applied towards a potential future semester, in some cases summer, if they run out of their usage for the year, or even, potential additional training for themselves, if they're seeking additional certifications and stuff like that. So definitely can be utilized that way. But that also goes back to planning and seeing what their future is going to kind of look like for them.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like that we can see it from both sides, right? The financial literacy side and the financial aid side, that, savings is still a thing.
So now you mentioned the part of savings. I think this is a very crucial part, but seeing it as a student, it can be really hard to think about savings when you still need to pay for loans or you need to be responsible for yourself, you're working part time. So, my question for both is how can they manage their loans responsibility while still saving for their future?
Great question, and I will take a stab at that. While you're in school, if you participate in the federal school loan program, you are not necessarily required to pay your loan while you're in school and maintaining your eligibility for the loans. In the event that, during the school you do drop below a certain criteria, outlined by the government and guidelines at the school, then at that point, that's where you're the student is responsible for making sure that payments are going to be made appropriately. But again, if you are participating in a federal program, you do have that cushion, if you will, to not pay right away. And that's something that, can set up student for success while they're in school. They can kind of save up as well a little. And then as they go, they can make that payment once, they complete their program or their studies.
That's great information. You mentioned that you did federal work study. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about that experience and like how it helped?
Yeah. So while I was a federal work study shortly, I was able to work and maintain a full caseload of studying. Also being mindful that I had an additional job outside the school. At the time, I had 3 jobs, 2 full-time, and then the part-time as a federal work study. And then also having a 12-hour caseload of schooling. And that was just for me to support myself and my family.
Okay.
More importantly, but federal work study has an opportunity for students to study and work at the college that they're pursuing their degree and stuff like that. There is stipulations to it. One of them is the criteria of meeting satisfactory academic progress, maintaining a level of enrollment. I believe currently at MCC is at least a minimum of 6 credit hours. But things change, and due to circumstances, sometimes students can't necessarily make that accommodation. But for the most part, federal work study is there to help students that have need on their accounts, and for them to be able to work and make money and earn that money as well to for them to provide for themselves or future again situations that come up, or even tuition if they don't have enough to pay for the tuition.
When you were working these 3 jobs at the same time that you were in college, did you receive financial literacy if it was part of your education?
Yeah, while working those 3 jobs, I didn't necessarily have a financial literacy coordinator or anyone to kind of guide me that way. But more importantly, those 3 jobs kind of came into place because the need of my family. Above all, that was kind of the mindset, also being mindful that I just had graduated high school, and as a high school graduate, you have the idea of having a car, having so much things and stuff like that. So at that point, those 3 jobs was to help ends meet at home with my family, but also for myself, because I did have the goal to go to school. And at that time, I didn't necessarily have a vehicle to transport, using public transportation or the rideshare. That kind of is a pretty penny, to say the least. But with that in mind, that kind of thrived me like, okay, this is my potential. I know my limits, and this is where I can flourish. And working those 3 jobs, while one of them I saved the full paychecks, those were my modes of getting to school. Also being mindful that, I had to buy lunch and stuff like that and dinner, because I was working pretty much round the clock, 12 hours a day kind of thing, including school, and then still having to get off school, after work and still do some studying, And I utilized MCC library to like 10 o'clock sometimes to do the after school studying. Just that way, I can maximize my day and also the time that I have because it was very precious. But as to the savings, it was rather hard personally for me to save. Just again, trying to encompass the monies at home, and then also for my own personal expenses. Again, like I said, transportation, even for food and meals and stuff like that. And then also being mindful that, there's things that come up too along the way. But also my mind and goal during that time was, again, to save for a vehicle. And I did. I was able to accumulate about $10,000 where I bought a truck, my first truck, and then it got paid in cash, so even better.
Yes,
So
definitely.
there's
Thanks.
definitely, thank you. It was definitely hard work put in, it's literally sleepless nights and stuff like that. But I think I saw the rewards at the end where I was able to see the hard work be, flourish to a vehicle that obviously would provide me more stability, but also transportation wise, it provided me more success to ensure my studies will get accomplished. Um, but definitely, I think the savings part was huge for me. Knowing that still I had to still provide for my family, but savings was still a huge thing in back of my mind. Again, didn't really have someone coach me on that, but just knowing the needs and not understanding those what I need to accomplish. That's kind of what was my fire to kind of keep me going.
Part of the budgeting that we try to teach to students to know how to differentiate between needs and wants, and it's very crucial.
If our student listeners are thinking to themselves, listening to what you've just said, if they're thinking to themselves that they can really relate to your situation where they have a financial need and they're facing possibly having multiple jobs, so that they can save for themselves and also help with the family and all of that, do you have any advice for those students to think about before they take on multiple jobs? What advice would you give them to work their way through that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would definitely say, see the big picture. What is you're trying to strive for? What are you trying to accomplish? And then along the lines, how to accomplish it, whether that's, using, again, federal aid for if you're going to continue studies or if you're going to save for a vehicle, know what's your end goal. And then along the ways, definitely plan and when you plan things, sometimes they don't seem to go as planned. So know that there's going to be hiccups along the way because that can be discouraging. But having an ultimate goal is kind of the guidance and making sure that things are going smoothly. I didn't have that necessarily as I started. And if I had that, probably I would have been more successful in reaching my goal maybe much sooner and maybe not forcing myself to have 3 jobs and, sleepless nights and stuff like that. But I am a person that likes to be ambitious and do the most at times. And that's also what kind of has driven me to kind of know where my limits and my abilities. Everyone has different abilities and everyone's able to do certain things, and maybe their strongest suit is not necessarily managing multiple things at a time. But knowing definitely themselves, knowing where they're at and how they can prepare themselves for that, I think will be a great foundation for most students, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Is there anything you wish you had understood about money or paying for college in your youngest year before you had to begin adulting on your own?
I wished and prayed that I would knew how to earn money without having to put so much effort. It there was times where I had to reflect, like, what am I doing? And times when it got tough, it still pushed me, but there also the understanding, like, okay, money's not being made, or not getting enough hours at certain places. That worried me at times. But had I known that there's opportunities to maximize and making revenue, or being strategic with utilizing those resources I had, that also would have helped me be in a better place. But I also take that as an opportunity to now look back and reflect, like, okay, this is what I wish I would have known. I think the biggest for me would have been the budgeting and saving. That I think now looking at that, I would have definitely been in a better spot, definitely. But more importantly, I think that could have helped others, because at the same time I was being reached out to, like, hey, how do you manage these three jobs and still attend school? And had I known more about that, I would have definitely been utilized those resources to pass that on to the others. And I mean, I definitely related with some of my classmates. While I did meet in person, I was able to tell them this is doable, and had I known where financially, like what areas I could have proceed or received more funds or stuff like that, I would have definitely applied, such as scholarships, outside donors and stuff like that. And I'm also was very involved, in certain organizations. And had I known, like, hey, these organizations provide scholarships or extra funding, I would have definitely done my due diligence and try to reach out to them, whether that's write a letter or something on those lines to make sure, like, hey, I could have maximized those funds if they had availability on them.
I have similar things I wish I would have known about. When I was in college, before I started college, I filled out the FAFSA, and I didn't qualify for any kind of scholarships and grants after filling out the FAFSA. And I was told, I went to financial aid and asked why not, right? And they said, you're at this time, no, this is quite a while back, but they said your parents make too much money. And actually, someone in the financial aid office, and it wasn't here at MCC, told me probably won't even qualify for any kind of scholarships either. So that was it. I never applied for a scholarship because I was told by this person, who I assumed knew what they were talking about, that I wasn't going to qualify for any kind of scholarships, even, outside ones or anything like that. But I was offered loans. And so they said, I got these loans, and I didn't take loans. I went to community college before transferring to a university. And at the university, then that's when I was told that, don't apply for scholarships either, because, your parents make too much money. And I was thinking to myself, well, my parents aren't paying for this, right? So I was really frustrated, but they were like, you qualify for loans. And I'm like, woohoo, I guess that's my option. And I didn't know, I wish I would have known then, that they said, we'll hand you this much money for the year. And it was, I think each year, it was for 2 years. For each year I got $15,000. I took $15,000 in loans, and I didn't know that I was allowed to say, I don't want all of that. Like, I could have gone back and said, I only want to take 5,000, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was working like 35 hours a week. And so I had income, and here I could have supplemented those loans and paid for school and not have come out of college in 2 years with $30,000 in school loans, And thankfully, I learned somewhere along the way, I don't even know who told me, but they were like, oh man, the loans that you have. Oh, I think I started getting letters saying, even though you're still in school, interest is building. Because it was unsubsidized. And so you can pay this interest now or not, But someone said, if you don't pay the interest now, it's just going to accumulate over the time, right? So your loan will be for even more money later on. You'll have to pay more money back. So every 3 months, I paid the interest that was accumulating on this loan. So I wish I would have understood that I could have said, I don't want that much money in loans. I wish I would have known more about the opportunities that were out there to help me pay for school.
What financial decisions are you proud of?
Looking back, like I mentioned, I definitely am proud of, being owning of a vehicle. I have currently 2 vehicles that I am proud of. Still have my first bought in cash vehicle, and then I also, along the way got a newer vehicle, 2019 Dodge Durango. But I'm definitely proud of, being in a better spot than I was before. That includes, now what, 7 years down the road, I have, graduated with associate's degree. I have moved on to ASU with a bachelor's degree, and now currently still looking into a master's degree program. And now knowing what I didn't know back then, that kind of puts me at a gain to understand now, like budgeting, and like Miss Tara just mentioned, now I can start moving my pieces to pay my unsubsidized loans, and covering those expenses, but still also keeping my other bills up to date. And I'm proud too that I haven't missed a payment, and that includes credit cards and stuff like that, and even other renting apartments payments and stuff like that. So while I'm proud that I learned things as I went, but I'm also proud that I was able to keep up with it, and also maintaining that is a lot, due dates, that includes the amounts and stuff like that. And now planning future wise, how to pay for a master's degree, because now we're just talking about loans. There's no Pell Grants no more. But now it's an opportunity for me to utilize my tools and resources that I've kind of learned along the way as well to maximize for this master's degree. And so for that, I am proud. I've seen where I was at. I went through it, and now I'm in a better position. Again, I still have 3 jobs, 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job, but I still, again, utilizing what I didn't know before, I can maximize and definitely be in a better position to pay for a master's degree, and also, still have a savings, but then also being able to manage my other little day-to-day expenses.
Yeah, I'm proud, education-wise, I'm proud that I learned the lessons that I did about taking loans, right, for my bachelor's, because then my master's, I had a completely different mindset. I decided I'm going to save up and I'm going to pay this out of pocket. I'm going to scrimp and save and do everything that I can, because I will not go through that again if I don't have to, right? Things happen. Sometimes loans are necessary. But had I had to take loans again, I would have known then I don't have to take the full amount. I only have to take what I absolutely need. Good. We have something similar. And actually, just last weekend, my husband and I bought a truck and we paid cash for it. We saved for a long time, but we were like, yes, we made it. And we found a truck that was, we got a 2021 Toyota Tacoma.
Wow.
I'm very proud of that we were able to save the money and pay for it outright. We have very similar pride things, so things we're proud of.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, remember that your journey through college is not just about getting an education, but also about setting the stage for your financial future. Before we go, we want to emphasize that the financial literacy team is here to provide support and guidance to MCC students on their journey to improving and maintaining their financial knowledge. You can find us on MCC's financial aid website by clicking on the financial literacy selection on the left side. There you can schedule a one-on-one appointment with us, access a free cash course account, stay informed about upcoming workshops and events, and explore additional financial resources that are available to you. Stay tuned for more tips and insights right here on College Cash Corner.